Here we are on the Trash Talk Business Podcast, episode 93. For those Packer fans out there, that was Big Gilbert Brown back in the 90s, 93. As always, this is your weekly rendition of all things trash. Speaking more specifically, the junk removal space. Whether you're looking to get in, get out, or build within your junk removal dream, you've come to the right place. As always, I'm Andy Weins, joined with my co-host, Casey Bubba Lawrence. Casey, what are we talking about today?
Andy, after a long time, much anticipation, millions and millions of requests from our listeners, we finally get to hear from the one and only Michelle Penczak. I'm going to say Penczak. I'm probably butchering your last name.
Hey, that's the Polish way to say it, so I'm told.
Okay, so, well, we finally get to hear from her. This has been, like I said, much anticipation has been with this, and we finally get you on. So, Michelle, please tell us who you are, what you do, and why you do it.
Oh my goodness, that's going to be a mouthful. I am the CEO and founder of Squared Away. We are a remote assistant service that employs military spouses.
Nice. Like a virtual assistant?
But way better than your typical, than your typical virtual assistant service. Very high level C-suite executive level support. So experience in doing a little bit of everything except for taxes.
Hell yeah.
And I'll jump into Casey's third question there. Why do you do this?
Yeah.
Oh gosh, that is near and dear to my heart. I started Squared Away because nobody wanted to hire me as a military spouse. I had experience working as a personal assistant to a lobbyist in DC. And I married my husband, who's an Osprey pilot in the Marine Corps. And I found that as soon as you say the phrase military spouse, red flag goes up for employers. And they're like, oh, thanks for coming out. Mm-hmm. And that's kind of the stepping stones for Squared Away.
Well, I think, like anything, maybe Andy can back me up. I don't have much experience in the spouse department while I was in the military, but I can see from the outside looking in that when you think of military spouse, you always think, well, what do they do if the guys or girls were deployed? And that's the thing, is they don't see really the effects deployments and military service actually has on the spouse. All they see is the military personnel when it's actually, a lot stressful. I think personally, it could be more stressful in cases for the spouse that's back home, either manning the house, the everyday life with all the family, with little to no support. So,
absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely.
That's
and
awesome.
I've experienced that so many times. I've been a spouse for 11 years and 8 of those with kids. And we've been stationed pretty much the entire time away from our families. So we didn't have that built-in grandparent, aunts, uncles, cousins support. And my husband was deployed 4 times during that period. So it's like you never have off time ever, unless you have a babysitter or a neighbor or something like that that can come and watch your kids so you can have sanity for a couple hours.
Yeah.
So one of the reasons I wanted Michelle to come on today is we have an Emmy. She's our VA. She's awesome.
Emmy.
And the running joke is, the running joke is everybody needs an Emmy. Because
is it the same company, Andy?
Yeah, it's the same company. That's how I found her. So I was told about them like 3 years ago ish, 2.5 years ago, from a guy here in Milwaukee that he's just a rock star of a dude, and he's one of those guys. He's always got something going on, and so it's like, well, how do you manage all of it? And it's real simple. He had somebody, and so I got hooked up with Squared Away in, I want to say, April or May of 21. So the other thing nice is hold on. I'll ask you, Michelle, how many people do you have in your network now? How many EAs, VAs, ops people?
We have just shy of 400.
There you go. So it was like 300-ish, I want to say, when I got hooked up. Nice thing was the first person that I was assigned was, well, first off, they interviewed me. I can't remember if it was you or someone else on your team, but basically interviewed me, want to know what made me tick, what I needed, right? Because then you pair the right person with the right skill sets. And then when the first person didn't work out, because that's how life is, they brought in a number 2 person, and that was Emmy, and we are awesome ever since. Like, we are a dynamic duo. I feel like I have a full-time assistant, when it feels like I got her 40, 50 hours a week, when really it's 40 hours a month. And sometimes if I do need a couple extra hours each month, it's simple and available, and it's like one text message or email to give it the green light. And so yeah, that's it. I love the relationship I have. One of the challenges that we see in the junk removal space, especially, is guys start the business. They get a 1 truck and then a 2 truck operation. They're still answering the phones. They're doing the operations. And then they're like, I want to get off the truck. So they get 2 guys, two crews to run the trucks. And then they actually get in the office and they hate every second of it. They're like, this isn't what I signed up for. Like, I don't want to be right. Like, I want to own the business. I don't want the business to own me. And when I first was doing it, I was like, oh, there's only certain things Emmy can do. And now it's like, when we were looking for operations position, we were strongly considering a virtual operations person, because Emmy can do so much. Now, there's a handful of things that we physically need somebody here, like checking the mail. And I don't know what Casey's doing.
There's services for that, Andy. You just want to throw that out there.
Like, you have someone stop by and check the mail. I hate checking the mail. That's like, it's just the bane of my existence. Going through the mail is such a mundane, simple task. I choose not to do it.
There's actually a really cool service, and I'm totally going off on a tangent, but there's a really cool service that will actually receive your mail for you and only forward the mail that's important to you and get rid of all the junk.
See, I will say this:
I'm not that bougie. I'm not that bougie yet. It's a mild annoyance.
I think it's very important if you get a lot of junk mail, but that's also the trick is you need that the filter system built into it. Say, hey, I'm probably going to get some serious mail too, because I will say we did not have our business located. I don't know how we didn't. My mom got around this somehow. We didn't have it listed on Google. Mm-hmm. We had the business listed, but not the location. The location was actually the post office. It was brilliant. Or no,
library.
Yeah, it was the city library.
What? You can list your business at the city library?
No, I don't think you can, but somehow we did. That's what I'm saying. So that actually helped us not get a bunch of just mail coming in, because in the beginning we had our home address as the location, and once that information's public, as you know, you just get tons of mail from just anything, and a lot of it, most of it, is junk mail. So that sounds like a great idea. And the reason I bring that up, I didn't mean to cut you off, but I know someone very high up leadership position of an organization. He refuses to have any type of assistant because he honestly thinks, and he's a little older than us, he really does think that, why would I need to pay someone to tell me I have emails when I can definitely see I have emails? And I was like, man, it's so much more than that. And again, I'm arguing with this person, it would almost be like arguing with a wall. Like, he has his ways, and you just kind of like, you know what, you don't get it, that's fine. But the importance of having that assistant is insane. Not just in general, but especially in today's climate. You know, seeing what Emmy has evolved into for Andy, it's crazy. I remember when we first started talking to her, and it was just like, yeah, I'm gonna need a bigger boat. Like, I think his first month he was already thinking about, so what's the next level up? What's the next level up? How do because you start to see the benefits of it. You're like, oh my gosh, like I could use this for so much more.
Oh yeah, and it's really, when people are like, oh, I can just do it myself, I'm gonna scale my business myself. I was like that at the very beginning. I was like, I can do everything. I already handle this. But you as an individual cannot scale. You cannot turn yourself into 5 people doing 5 different jobs. Mm-hmm. If you want to, give your job away so that the business isn't running you, you have to have support in place to do that. You have to have processes in place. And it cracks me up when people are just like, oh, I got it, I'll do it myself. But one of my mentors has always told me, show, don't tell. Mm-hmm. So if somebody's convinced if somebody's convinced that they don't need something, okay, cool. I'm going to gift you a 5-hour plan figure it out, your assistant will basically be the captain of the ship and make sure that you get your stuff done. Kind of like Emmy does, I'm sure, like help you drive the ship, Andy. But being proactive is super important.
Isn't that funny though? Like your business owner needs someone to tell them what to do. It needs someone to lead them, right? And you don't really think of it that way in the beginning. You think, I'm the business owner, I'm in charge. Right. Then you start to realize real quick, man, I actually need someone to keep me in line, hold me accountable, and tell me what's next. And
100%.
100%. And I think a lot of these, I was thinking the same thing. I don't think it's because we don't know. I think it's because, like you just said, we take on all that stuff and we're just like, I get scattered all the time. If it's not on my calendar, it doesn't exist, right?
Yes.
That's bad, because that means if I forget to put it on my calendar, guess what? It doesn't exist.
Up a creek in a heartbeat. Yeah. I think our big thing has been shifting the mindset of what a traditional assistant looks like. A lot of times people come into it with the mindset that an assistant is somebody I delegate to when I don't want to do something. And it's kind of true. But at the same time, your assistant is there to partner with you and make sure your goals are met. So they're the people that are holding your feet to the fire saying, hey, if you don't do this, it's not happening. If you don't give me this, it's not going to happen. I've had to basically threaten people and say, hey, you're never going to make this flight unless you tell me what time you want to go. And being able to say that and being able to be confident enough and trusting enough of each other is super important in those client and assistant relationships.
No, I mean, that's so Casey, so I mean, started with me June, July of 22 or 20. No, I'm getting confused. 21. Yeah, because I took Camel Crew back over 21. And Casey and I went and did a project over, it was like 60-day period all over the country. And I would be, I could just call Emmy from anywhere and be like, hey, I need a flight tomorrow. Just figure it out. Like, which airlines I like, we figured it out eventually, like which airlines I like, layovers and all that kind of stuff. And for me not to have, not to be able to have to stop for 15, 20 minutes, do something that's pretty significant, like booking airlines and hotels. Like that's one of the things I like. There's some people that love planning that shit. My girlfriend loves it. She loves looking at hotels and looking at the pictures and figuring out flights. I'm like, I fly United out of O'Hare and it's got to be a direct flight. That's it. Like, it's like,
that's easy.
Exactly. Right. Like I met my girlfriend. I was catching up with Casey in Chicago when I was flying down to Huntsville, Alabama. And I drive past Milwaukee's airport. It's 55 minutes between airports. I drive past Milwaukee's airport because I don't want to fly for 17 minutes and then have a 2-hour layover when I can drive it.
Yeah.
It's a hillbilly math of it. The nice thing about with Emmy was once she figured out and me, I'm like, what can I get rid of? And it was just like, I did start, stop, continue methodology of change. I looked at all the things that traditionally I'm the only one that does, and I'm going to stop doing all of it. And it's like, what can you do here? And she picked up like 3/4 of it. And there's also some things that she does not do, and it's not in her job description, and she will not do it. And that is an agreement in our partnership that we have. Like one thing with her, like she will not follow up on quotes and sell jobs, right? Like it's one of those things that I wanted to stop doing. And she's like, yep, not what I do. And I'm like, all right, bet. Right. Because that's not how she operates. And that's not what I originally needed or asked for. So like you said, it's not this, hey, do all the crap I don't want to deal with. It's no, like, how can I best utilize your time to get me moving forward? And Emmy absolutely holds me accountable. She's like, hey, Andy, what are your thoughts on this? I'm like, I don't want to do that. She goes, well, you said a couple of weeks ago that this was important. This was a priority. Like I need it turned in by Friday. So I needed you to have it done by Thursday. I'm like, all right, shit, put it on my calendar, find an hour, tell me I have to do it, yell at me. She'll text me like, hey, Andy, you owe me this thing in an hour. I'm like, all right, yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
And that is our relationship. Like I pay her to manage me.
And what's really funny is I love that you mentioned that because from the very beginning, I've always told clients, like, you are paying us to be your pain in the ass to make sure that you get your stuff done. Because if you don't, it's not going to happen. Like we are only asking you the very important questions. Otherwise, we can figure the rest out on our own based on what we know of our relationship. So yeah, we're the paid ass pains, basically.
Well, what's interesting is a lot of entrepreneurs get into business and one of their chief complaints is, I don't have anybody to bounce ideas off of anymore. no one tells me what to do. I'm in charge of myself. And once you get a good EA, they do all those things. Now, I get to set the vision. There are times where I've told Emmy, like, all right, you know what, Emmy, this is no longer a priority. Don't ask me about it. I'm not going to tell you again that I'm not going to lie to you again and tell you I'm going to get to it when I know, good and damn well I'm not, right? It's been 90 days. It hasn't gotten to. Or I'll tell like, hey, follow up with me in 30 days. Don't put this on our weekly emails. Like every day I get an email from her, basically all the things she needs from me, updates on things and, yes, no questions or quick, short answers where she's like, I just need to make a decision, Andy. I'm like, all right, cool. What are my options? If you can boil it down to 2 or 3 options, I'll make a decision. If there isn't, if there's 100 options, I'm more likely to not make a decision. And we started doing that when I was on vacation. She started sending me daily emails where she'd go through my inbox and be like, hey, I need you to respond to these ones. Mm-hmm. I can respond to these. I just need to know what the answer is and updates on this stuff that I know where you want to go with it. I'm letting you know we've moved the ball forward. And then after one of my vacations, I was like, I kind of like those. Can you just keep doing those? So every day, even if the email is, hey, no updates today, which rarely happens, I get them. And for me, like this week on Saturday, I hadn't read anything since Wednesday night. So I didn't read her updates from Wednesday, Thursday, or Friday. So the first thing I do when I was cleaning up my inbox on Saturday is I read all of Emmy's emails because then I address all of it. And then half my inbox is cleaned up because she's already tracking on it. She's already on copy. And like people that know me.
Doing that.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, so clean up. Yeah, I had 40 unread emails, and these were all like legit. This is after we scrubbed all the crap emails. So I had 40 unread emails and an hour. I got through them in an hour, no problem. And that's from not being in the office most of the day Thursday and all day Friday. So I probably got 100, 150 emails in that time period, and she's keeping up on stuff. It's been to a point where over the last year, almost even 2 years maybe, the main people, the vendors that I work with, my lawyer, my insurance guy, they know to ask Emmy or tell Emmy. They're like, hey, I had a conversation with Andy about this. We need to do this. And she'll always forward it to me and be like, hey, is this legit? Be like, yeah, we're good. Versus send me an email that I'm not going to get to for a day and a half. And it'll end up in Emmy's lap anyways. So, exactly. Yeah, I do think your tagline should be everyone needs an Emmy. Very biased here. Everyone needs an Emmy.
She pay her royalties.
Oh. Yeah. And the thing is with Emmy, she started as my assistant. I want to say, let's call it June of 21. And it wasn't until like December of 21, we're in a like end of year accounting call that I saw her for the first time on a Zoom, because we'd always chat on the phone, or if we were on Zoom, we never I would always be mobile. So I knew what she looked like because I saw her, in her picture, her email signature, and we were on a call with like some random person. We're like, oh, I've never actually seen you before. She goes, yeah, I've never seen you outside of like random videos. And the person on the call was like, wait, you're the assistant? And like, you guys talk every day? I'm like, oh yeah, we're on the phone all day. And like, they were just perplexed by it. And then actually Casey and I were in Raleigh, North Carolina for a conference, and we met her at Chase Bay. Is it? Yeah. So we were in Raleigh.
I'm in Wilmington. Yeah.
Oh, that's not far. Yeah.
Yeah, that's not far at all.
We're down there. Casey will talk about your barbecue here in a minute. Yeah. Anyway, so we were down there, and I had Emmy meet us. It was the first time I ever met her. And we went over to Chase Bank so I could give her signature authority on a bunch of our accounts because I got sick of having to be looped into a bunch of conversations every time I needed her to do bill pay, and she's virtual. And she does all of our AP, some of our AR. Like that's a lot of trust I've put in her. And also it's why our relationship is great. She's told me in the past that the level of trust and transparency and vulnerability I give her is what allows her to be really, really good at her job.
Yeah.
I do have a question for both of y'all.
Yeah.
So Andy and whoever wants to answer this first, I think it's important because this is one thing that my wife has actually wondered, and I've wondered as well. So I know others have too. What is the learning curve, time frame specifically, but what is the learning curve when hiring someone like Emmy in the beginning? Like, what would you say, like 60, 90 days, 30 days?
I would say to start building a great base and groundwork, it probably takes a good 90 days to have that trust.
I would agree. And also the way that they have their billing. You guys updated your billing like a year ago. If your assistant's been with you less than 2 years, it's one price point. More than 2 years, it's a higher price point.
Right.
right? Which is kind of a reverse logic. When I first got it, I was like, wait, why am I being like, I'm a regular customer? Why am I being de-incentivized? However, I can tell you, I get twice, maybe 3 times. If I look at my first 6 months, I probably get 3 times the value out of Emmy now in 40 hours than I did at the beginning, because we're it's automated. We're in sync. Like at first, I would say she spent 40 hours doing, entry level data type tasks, right? Very admin focused. Now she probably spends half her time on strategy or strategic initiatives, I should say, like writing SOPs, right? Like the day-to-day shit, like she does. And there's a lot of next level stuff that she takes on, where she can also take things earlier in the process. Instead of like, hey, pay this bill. Now it's like, hey, sign us up for a networking event. Hey, manage the entire account. Hey, manage my calendar for me. So it's like closer and closer to really being that true integrator. What I love about her, and it's totally her personality type, she is a non-decision making individual. She knows, like, she'll list me like 3 flights, and she'll be like, hey, here are the 3 flights. I know you're going to choose this one, but I need you to tell me to choose that one. I'm like, Emmy, you know what flight I want. You know what hotel I want. Just, but like in her brain, she's like, I don't want to spend your money. And I'm like, it's like this perfect, but she'll get it to the point where she's like, here are the 3 options. I listed the top one that I know you're going to take. Like, she knows I like Embassy Suites, and she knows I like United. Like that, I don't even drink anymore, so the free drinks at Embassy Suites don't even help me. It's stupid.
Well, I saw how beneficial it was when that project. It was her first time really working with Andy.
Oh yeah, it was a shit show.
Yeah, and it was a shit show because we were in 7 different states, all within 2.5 months, and the amount of invoices, receipts, just the basic stuff that was coming in from different points of the country at the same time. And Andy would be over here, I would be over here.
Yeah, we had 3 different customers. We had 2 or 3 jobs going at once. Oh yeah,
it's amazing the different tasks that our team has handled over the years. It's being able to manage that, but we're also doing, like, I had a client a few years ago, and he wanted to go to the Cannes Film Festival, and which, I mean, legit, who doesn't want to go? But he said that he wanted to host a party and have the smallest boat there. You're in Cannes where all the yachts are, and he's like, as a party, I want to have like the smallest boat there and have something cool, like a person playing jazz music on the dock type deal. And I was like, so you want a redneck yacht club in Cannes? Great. So I was in Hawaii at the time, and I was up at like 3 a.m. booking a saxophonist on a dock, and he's like, oh, I was kind of kidding, but you got it done. That's amazing. And it was just like an amazing marketing ploy for his company. And I was just like, well, that wouldn't give me a run for my money, but it was really cool, the different things that we've been able to put together. And, not only is it party planning, invoicing, project management, but we're walking founders and CEOs through fundraising rounds, which is a shit show in and of itself. So it's never boring.
Well, that's the other thing nice I like with Emmy is if there's a situation we run into sometimes, whether it's very tactical, like QuickBooks is doing a thing, or it's more like, hey, there's this new tax law. Like, she'll be like, hey, let me reach out to somebody on my team to see if somebody's already dealt with this. Like, why relearn this shit? And that's what I like, because you have 400 people working for what's the average workload? How many clients do each one of your have?
I think our average is about 3 clients per assistant.
So you got about 1,200. So you have 12, maybe 1,500 companies you serve on a given month. Like, that's 12 to 1,500 perspectives that can now be boiled down and melted. And I'd imagine most of your executives are working for small or medium-sized businesses, under
we only
500 employees.
We only have a handful of like Fortune 500 companies that we're working with, but most of our teams are between 5 and 40
employees.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a sweet spot. In junk removal, like until you get to 5 employees, you're a truck in the truck. I mean, that's a 2-truck operation. in order to run 2 trucks with an operations person, you're at 5, 6, 7 employees. So yeah, and then 40 is about the max. I don't know many other junk removal companies outside of the big franchises that have more than 25, 30 guys, because there's a saturation point in most metro markets where you could have a second or third location. Like at one point I had 100 plus employees across the country. That was in 10 locations though.
Oh, wow.
The most I ever had here, I think we're up to 32 employees was the max we had here at our location. And now we hover around 12. I think at 12 or 13 right now on our crew. And this summer we'll ramp up to, last summer we ramped up to like 21.
Oh,
So we'll
wow.
ramp up 2024 by summer. It's a different it's how junk removal is, like 5 to 40 employees. That is essentially the sweet spot.
Yeah, I can definitely see that. I moving all the time. We definitely employ junk removal services at our house
There you go.
on the regular.
So are all the assistants military spouses? Is that a bare minimum qualification?
We are predominantly military spouses. We have about 15 assistants on our team that are not military spouses. But we're designed to support the lifestyle of military spouse. So we make sure that, we have processes in place for deployments so people can take time off, homecomings, they can welcome their spouses home, and PCSing across the country, which is not the funnest thing I've ever done in life.
Are you down in South Carolina now still, or is that where you're from?
Well, I'm in North Carolina right now.
North Carolina. Oh yeah.
We've been from Texas, North Carolina, Hawaii, California, back to North Carolina.
And I said South Carolina. I was thinking that was when I was in Charleston this year. Yeah, you're right. North Carolina. My brain wasn't working. How did you meet your spouse in the first place?
I was working in DC. Funny story. He will love for me to tell you this. We were at a wedding, but I was somebody else's date. So a bunch of junk talking, beer pong, and we've been married 11 years.
Shape. There you go. I do not see a problem here. There you go. And what were you doing? What was your previous career when you were in DC?
I was a personal assistant to a lobbyist.
Oh,
so
yeah,
I was basically doing everything that we're doing remotely now in person, which was even crazier.
Okay. Now we're going to go on this total tangent. I don't understand lobbyists. Like, they're just people that get paid to tell politicians just
to spend money.
They're useless, right? I mean, is it fair to say like lobbyists are useless individuals? Like, they don't contribute to society.
That's fair.
Okay.
Nobody said they're useless. They're limited because they have a very singular use. That's how I look at it.
Yes.
So every time I love going to DC. Great seafood. I'm a foodie.
I love
so
much.
I love the monuments, especially at night. I love the museums.
We had a blast that night.
Yeah, Casey and I went. I've gone a couple times myself. I love going to DC, and the touristy people. It is like whatever it is. There's tourist people every. You know what I mean? Like the souvenir sellers, this, that. Fine. And then you meet the people that live in DC, and they're like quasi. Like not from this planet. It's like like they're not like they're so American, they're not American. They think that America is DC in the hill. And it's like, no. There's this big fuck off place called America where like good hardworking people live. And then like you fucks try to screw it all up and make us not like each other.
It was such a I mean, I grew up in North Carolina, went to college in Tennessee. And when I got to DC, I was like, y'all are aliens. Like, what is wrong with y'all? Because you would go out like happy hour, meet new people, and you would have to literally like give them your resume as you're talking to them. And I was like, I'm just trying to have a cocktail and like meet some people because I'm new. But they would be like, well, where'd you go to school? What was your degree? Who do you work for? Blah, blah, blah. And I was like, this is exhausting. Every time I meet somebody, they ask the same question. So they're very politically focused.
Well, that's it.
In DC.
Correct. You can't order a hot dog without someone asking you, which party you align with. Like it is a weird fucking place and I'm not even saying like I'm not gonna go like good or bad people. It's just it's so different. It's like they're all consumed by politics. And it's like that ain't America. Yeah,
DC.
That's correct. To them, it is. And again, good on them. Not for me. I in most places I go, I love meeting the people. I don't think I ever met anybody in DC that was from DC.
No, I don't think
you know what I mean. Like
yeah.
like they choose to live there. It's interesting, and I've been very fortunate to travel. Right, like I was in New York. I love the people in New York.
I also love New York.
Like they tell it how it is. LA, people are so full of themselves they don't even know you exist. Fine, right? Like it's like this level of pretentiousness in LA that's like, cool. Everyone's a nobody in LA because everybody's a somebody, right? If everybody's a somebody, that means everybody's really a nobody. So I found that interesting when I've hung out or met with people in LA that I didn't already know. I'm like, oh wow, like nobody matters. But yeah, you're right. And then in DC, it's like, and I tell people like, I do junk reform. To your point about resume, it's interesting you bring that up. I've been there, they're like, oh, what are you here for? I'm like, oh, I'm a small business owner in Wisconsin. They're like, oh, okay. And like, that's it. Like, they're like,
you said
you can't help.
That's not like the DC Metro Virginia area. So it doesn't matter outside of that.
Correct. They're like, oh, you can't do anything to help me or my career. Next, who's the next person I can talk to? Like they have zero. They're not like, oh, that's interesting. Tell me more about your life as an entrepreneur. They're like, oh, you can't help me in my aspirations of life. Nope, I could do without you. So, and I've been there when I was serving the military. Same thing. They're like, oh, what did you do? I'm like, oh, I'm a reservist. Blah blah blah. Oh, you're a nobody. Sounds good. Next. That's it. I remember I was there at Fort Meade, Maryland, going to a school. And I wasn't in uniform, but I was clean shaven and whatever. And we took the train down to DC for the day, and we met some people. And every time we met someone, it was like the same story. They're like, you're just like in town training. Yeah, all right, you're nobody. Like everyone is like this networking of who can serve me today. Which coming from the Midwest nice, or the nice down the South, like it's you're maybe you're not. I am not used to people being that egregious when it comes to taking. Maybe that's the best way to put it.
Yeah, that was something that I think
so funny you mentioned that.
Helped me get the thick skin because I had to get used to that really fast.
Yeah,
I think that's that's I think it's the mantra for politicians for the most part, Andy.
Yeah.
I mean,
I don't like going to Madison. I don't like going to Madison in Wisconsin. I don't like going to the state capital.
I have some very, very recent experience, but it would seem from the outside that they're all about the people. And then once they get what they need, they turn right back around and say, hey, look at me. This is what I did. This is what I did today. Didn't really matter how I got there or who was involved. I did this. So I think when you go to the Mecca for that, DC, you kind of get what you know what I'm saying? Like this.
Yeah, it's exhausting, honestly. Yeah. I used to come back to North Carolina to visit home like every other weekend because I was like, I just need a break because it's nonstop no matter where you go within that DC metro area. Everybody has that exact same politically focused mindset.
Speaking of heavy hitters, Casey, you didn't tell people on the show yet who you were hanging out with earlier today.
Oh yeah, well
Casey, if it wasn't Reese Witherspoon, we got to up your game a little bit.
Yeah,
it wasn't Reese Witherspoon. No, it was not. If I was hanging out with her, my wife would not like that very much. She's like, "Why are you leaving me?" And I'm like, "Just kidding, just kidding." She's right in front of me too. Kidding. I was actually on Dr. Phil's new set today with him and a whole bunch of people. Mostly hanging out though with a guy named Jonathan Lucroy. A lot of people up in the Milwaukee area know him as the catcher, right? The hero of Milwaukee, I guess, is what it seems to be.
I don't know if I can go that far. He was a good catcher for about 10 years with the Brewers.
Yeah, and then he was also a catcher, Major League Baseball player for the Rangers as well. But yeah, today was really cool. I work with a veteran nonprofit, and we were invited to go be a part of a big surprise for Dr. Phil this morning at his new studio in Fort Worth. He's moving his entire operation here. And a part of that, they're like, hey, we need you to invite a bunch of vets and first responders. So we packed the house, and it was a really cool event. You know, something it was very different for me because I've never been in that kind of scene before. I don't know what a big TV studio or whatever really looks like, and then you see it, and what's funny is it's in a warehouse. It's in a warehouse district, to where if you look at it from the outside, you're like, oh, it's just another warehouse. Then you go inside, you're like, wow. So it was really cool. You know, I got to meet a lot of really awesome people. Apparently, I met this guy who's the Bachelor, one of the Bachelor winners. I didn't recognize him. No offense. I just don't watch that
I don't
show.
watch The Bachelor, so
Yeah,
I would be out of my
I met him and his lovely wife, I guess is what they call them. I don't know. But yeah, it was great. Good times.
There you go. All right, let's just head to the old
And I
shout out.
changed.
Yeah,
I had to get all suited up.
Casey sent me pictures. You know, he's all cleaned up. You know, got a fresh fade and everything to go hang out with Dr. Phil today.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
I mean, not the same as a DC lobbyist. You know,
I mean,
in the sphere.
I haven't hung out with anybody that cool, so you've got us.
Well, I'll tell you this. So the main thing, and this is actually I think it's relevant to this podcast. The biggest thing I took from that experience today was the unknown. I wanted to go because I didn't know who was going to be there. I wanted to go because I didn't know who I was going to run into. I didn't know who was the connections you were going to make, the possibilities, the opportunities. It was all there. So that's why I was like, I really want to go and exercise that, I guess, access, because you don't normally get that kind of access to those people.
Right.
And I was right. I mean, there were some local politicians that were there that I've known for years. I invited them. They showed up. It was great. But then there was people that I probably wouldn't have ever met that was also there. And now they know who I am and what I do. But more importantly, they know why I do it. A good buddy of mine, I invited him out there today, and he texted me later on. He's like, hey, brother, I really appreciate the invite. I'll be honest with you. This was a big waste of my time, but I'm always down to support where I can. And I get it. And I was like, cool. I don't take it personally. I was like, let me ask you a question. Why was it waste your time? He's like, oh, I didn't really think I could get anything from the experience. And I was like, did you meet anybody new? He's like, well, yeah. I go, so how is that not beneficial to your business? He has a business. He has a small business. So you really have to, I think it's very, what do you call it? It's what you make of it, right? These experiences.
It is very much what you make of it.
Yeah.
And also what you put in, you know?
Yeah, exactly. That was the other thing. This guy, him and I could argue for hours. We're really good friends, but that's a great question, Andy, because that's exactly what I wanted to ask him, but I didn't feel like having that conversation. How much effort did you put into it? That's the main question you have to ask yourself, because I could go anywhere. You could put me in the middle of a bunch of billionaires, and if I leave and say, oh, that was stupid. Well, who'd you attempt to talk to? Well, nobody. All right, then. You know, it's your fault.
Exactly. And it's like, I'm one of those introvert extroverts. Like, I like my alone time, but I'm also like very much a people person. I love talking about things I'm passionate about, Squared Away being number one. But if I went to a networking event and I was just like, hey, I'm the CEO of Squared Away, we employ military spouses, and I left it at that, people will literally just see my name like as a LinkedIn link. They won't understand the passion behind what our mission is and what we do. And they'll probably forget me in 5 minutes. But if they need support in 2 weeks, a month, a year, they could be like, hey, what's that company again that I met? And they employ military spouses. What a kick-ass mission. Let me reach out to them. You never know where it's going to take you. And that's happened to me so many times over the last 6 years. So every time I meet somebody new, I'm fully authentic and just say, hey, you know, take me or leave me, but this is what I'm passionate about, and this is what I do. Let me know if I can be helpful.
When you started, did you anticipate being a solopreneur, or did you anticipate building this thing out?
Oh God, no, never. I never saw myself as a CEO. And if you ask my husband what my goal was when we first started, I was like, it would be really awesome to employ 30 military spouses. How cool would that be? And we did that in a year. So now he's like, oh, remember that time? Like, you said only 30 and now you're at 400. And I'm like, yeah, what the hell was I thinking? Completely nuts.
So what would you say was the biggest, I guess, driver of that?
Oh gosh. I'm stubborn, number one. I saw my friends struggling. I saw it all the time. I saw my neighbors that lived next to me on base struggling. I saw my friends back home in North Carolina, in California, struggling because they wanted to work. And these are teachers, these are dental hygienists, these are nurses that have the safe jobs. And they were always starting at the bottom. But with our team, what we've made it into is they can grow. They have a career trajectory that they can focus on at Squared Away. They can become an assistant. They can become a director as we continue to grow. So there's like 4 ways for them to grow internally, not just with their clients. And nobody's ever really had that as a military spouse.
That's really cool.
And where are you located now?
I am in Wilmington, North Carolina.
Oh, you're back home-ish.
I'm home-ish. My family's within about an hour drive.
Oh, that ain't so bad. How long y'all going to be there? Do you have any idea?
God willing, 3 or 4 years, but it depends on what the Marine Corps has in store for us.
And what Marine Corps base is out there?
So there's Camp Lejeune. My husband is a pilot, so he's actually at the air station, New River.
How far is Lejeune from you?
It's about 35, 40 minutes.
Oh,
yeah.
I thought it was farther than. All right.
Oh, I thought it was like a rat down the road. Yeah, man, it is.
Yeah, no, we're right down 17, so it's like a straight shot, but it's about 35, 40 minutes.
So, Casey, do you want to speak to the barbecue in Raleigh? Do you want to get the?
Yeah, sure. I'll talk about it. I mean, I think it needs to be said at all times. Any chance I can get to talk about the barbecue in Raleigh, I will definitely take that opportunity.
Casey, barbecue is a touchy subject for North Carolinians. I just
you brought to get your feelings. You better get your thick skins.
No, all right. So I'll be honest, right? The other day I was eating something that I just pulled out of the fridge. Didn't know how old it was or anything. I soon found out it was disgusting and rotten, and I thought, man, I would eat this every day before I touched Raleigh barbecue.
Okay,
that's kind of how I look
to be fair. Was it vinegar based, mustard based,
it was,
or barbecue based?
Honestly, excuse my French, it was shit based. Man,
I
almost chugged a bottle of vinegar just to get it out of my mouth.
He ordered brisket. He ordered brisket at a Southern barbecue joint. It did not work out. I love brisket, and I took a bite and I was like, "That's fucking terrible."
Okay, so if you guys come back to North Carolina, you have to let me know because there's some amazing places that you won't be like, "Oh, get that shit out of my mouth."
See, I was smart. I ordered the pork and the fried chicken. Right? Like I didn't mess around.
I only do brisket in Texas because Texas brisket
is awesome. It's amazing.
Yeah.
So, and that's the other thing. That's also the argument I had with the waitress there. Bless her heart, because she's probably like, I don't give a shit. But like, I was arguing with her about, look, what is barbecue to y'all versus Texas barbecue? Like, Texas barbecue is not just pulled pork and brisket. It's a whole lot more. And what's funny is this was all for that. Well, this was for the Raleigh trip, but for the McDonald's trip, I was in Kansas City. So I had an Uber from the airport, and Andy, you remember this? I was probably waiting about 4 or 5 hours before I could check into my Airbnb.
Yep.
So I rolled up on a barbecue joint, and I spent some time at the bar there and eating barbecue. And I was like, this is different, but it's okay. I don't see what the hype is for Kansas City barbecue. And then I realized everyone has a different base for their barbecue, and they don't understand. Everybody has a different definition of what barbecue is, I think. In Texas, for me, just kills everyone else when it comes to barbecue.
In Wisconsin, you say barbecue, that's like hot dogs and hamburgers on the grill. That's what a barbecue is to us.
Oh, no, that's a cookout. That's a cookout.
100%. I am in no defense of this. People are like, come over for a barbecue. And it's like, what are we having? Brats, hot dogs, and, hamburgers. And it's like, that ain't
that.
barbecue.
Or throw it on the barbecue. Yeah, I guess I understand that.
Yeah, but it's not. Like, it's not barbecue in the slow cooking.
No, I had the best brisket of my life when we lived in Texas. We lived in Corpus Christi when my husband was in flight school, and I could literally eat every meal every day. That brisket was just incredible. But
there's two things I probably eat every week.
Amazing. So you just got to go to the right place.
So there's two things I probably eat every week at least once. One is barbecue, and the other one's queso.
Okay,
that's a way of life here. Sometimes they eat at the same time.
But So, quick question: have you ever ordered queso in California?
Yes, but it was different. I ordered queso in Seattle, and they brought me a bowl of shredded cheese, for real,
Okay,
at a restaurant called El Toro.
In California, they literally, I asked them for queso. It was so sad. But they basically just, it looked like they had taken shredded cheese and popped it in the microwave for like a minute.
Melted orange cheese.
What I found out was that queso is actually Tex-Mex. It's not Mexican food.
Right.
It's Tex-Mex. It originated in the southern region of Texas, and it's not a Mexican food. So when you go to California, I can see it now. I understand it now, because they're probably like, yeah, whatever. But just another thing I found interesting: street tacos are a little different in California than they are in Texas.
Yes.
And also Mexican food with cheese. Real Mexican food is not that cheesy.
Nope.
No cheese.
So I guess it's all about culture, right?
Casey had been like 3 places in his entire life before he met me, and now he's done most of his traveling with me. Now, like you were in Washington, North Dakota, Texas, and Afghanistan. That was it. That was like the extent of
Iraq, and I mean, I've been to other states. Yeah, actually.
You've never been to California. You've never seen the green grass of Ohio. I remember he called me, he's like, Ohio's the greenest place I've ever been.
Oh my gosh, the grass there. It was so funny because the only time I ever went to California was for NTC training. Like, it was terrible. Fort Irwin, that's not California. That's hell on earth.
Oh yeah, I've never been there, but I've heard not great things.
You're not missing anything. No. But Ohio, never been to Ohio. And I remember we landed, we had a long drive because I guess you land in like Kentucky, Ohio or something.
Oh, because on the border.
Yeah, and then we drove like an hour, and I was just like, oh my gosh, the landscaping here is beautiful. The grass is so green and luscious.
And then found out Cincinnati is known for skyline chili, right? That's the other thing. Like food up north, like we don't have, like the foods we're known for they're not sexy. It's not something to, like Wisconsin beer rotten cheese. Like, we're not getting behind that, Cincinnati is skyline chili. It's chili.
We all own it, though, at least you own it.
We own it. Give me.
Hey, North Carolina, we have more than just barbecue. We have seafood, which is.
I know.
Oh yeah, no, that's what I love about it. So Houston, I don't like Houston, the city necessarily. However, it's probably one of my favorite places to eat, because you got Cajun, you got barbecue, you got Mexican, you got all the major food groups, and you're still down south, so you can get good biscuits and gravy. Like, it is, the best of all the worlds. Because I love New Orleans, but like New Orleans is very distinct. Houston, because it's large and it's close to everything, it's a melting pot for all the different flavors.
You can get a lot of different things.
Yeah.
So the most fondest memory I have of North Carolina was a Shoney's in Asheville. And let me tell you, that place was great. It was amazing. We were visiting my great grandma. She used to live in Asheville, and there was this Shoney's that we always went to. And yeah, Shoney's is awesome.
Do they still have Shoney's? Is that still a thing?
Yes, there's actually still Shoney's that
exist.
Awesome. There's one in Tennessee where I went to college, and everybody used to talk about, what is it, the strawberry pie, I think.
Shoney's is just
about.
Good time. Shoney's and Burrs.
My mom worked at Shoney's when we lived in Atlanta. She worked at International Delights, or not International. She worked at Delights, which isn't a thing anymore. It was like a healthy fast food option. Delights, and then she worked at Shoney's and Cracker Barrel. That's the food I was raised on.
Hey, Cracker Barrel. My 8-year-old still asks for Cracker Barrel once a week.
Dude, I went to Cracker Barrel. Dude, I went to Cracker Barrel this weekend for the first time in 10 years, and I'm like, this is 10 minutes from my house. Why am I not here every week? $13.99 for the Southern style, or the Sunday, the home style, home style chicken. Dude, mac and cheese, grits, 2 biscuits, and 2 pieces of fried chicken. You teasing me? Like, I don't care if it's a chain. Like, zero fucks. I don't care that it's been sitting in a hot plate. Fine, put it on a plate. I'm a happy man.
Oh my gosh, yes.
So if you haven't noticed, this is the food podcast too.
We go with wherever this conversation takes us. Like, we know you got awesome executive assistants. We can certainly talk about that more. Everyone needs, like, everyone that wants to scale needs to get somebody to do the things that they're not great at. and go get yourself an Emmy. Like, there's your plug. There it is, done. Everyone needs an Emmy. That should be the official.
So let me ask you a question, actually, real quick.
Slogan.
Okay, let me ask you a question, and this is just in general. I'm curious too. If I'm in my first or second year of business, what would you recommend as far as getting assistance? Hey, look, I'm swamped. I'm gaining ground, but I just don't have the time to really do the in my business and on the business part. I need help, but at the same time, I also have a limited budget.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, what would you recommend for someone like that who maybe just they can't afford an Emmy full throttle, but they need to get started somewhere?
I would definitely say come on board at a 15-hour plan, because 15 hours is going to get you a lot of time. And also think about the top 3 things that if you gave away tomorrow, you would be able to fully focus. And it can be the low-hanging fruit. It can be like the things that you're like, man, this is just a massive waste of time. But is it really? Because you're able to focus on the things that are more proactive in your business. So I would say 15 hours, $600 a month. Because trust me, your time is way more valuable than $600 a month.
What's the minimum commitment? Like, don't you have like a 3-month commitment right off? No, I mean,
we have a 30-day cancellation policy.
That's what I thought. Okay, yeah, I think I came in at 15 hours, and by my second month I was at 20, and I scaled to 30, and now I'm at 40, and that's 40 hours a month.
The top?
The top is you can do 75 hours, but then we do custom plans over 75 hours.
And is it considered a? Well, I guess it wouldn't be full-time person, but is there? I'm guessing it's not like a temp agency where at some point you can hire that person full-time for you. It's like, hey,
well, you can.
Oh, you can. Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
Is there a conversion fee?
You can buy out your assistant's contract and bring them on with you.
Wow.
Or
interesting.
I didn't know that. Here's what I do like about the model.
Andy, you can't leave us now that you just learned it.
No. well, it's twofold. This is what I like about it, though. When Emmy is on vacation, I have no business interruptions because someone else comes in and covers down, and Emmy will train the person up at not my cost. I think, right? She doesn't when Emmy's gone for a week, if it's a payroll week, we need the person to do basically minimum payroll. Emmy does a great job of loading up her schedule the week of, and
that's not an extra fee. That's just part of the service.
It's and then if it's a non-payroll week, I don't even have. I'm like, hey, you're off. Get everything done on Friday before you leave. Leave the things on my plate for that week that have to get done. And normally she picks it up on Monday. There's almost nothing that's so time sensitive that I can't already do because we're pre-planning the work. Like right now, this is today, for example.
Affect y'all at all?
No, she's an hour different. Actually, it works out because she's slotted for 8 hours a day. So she is slotted for 8 to 10 from 9 to 5 my time. So that's 10 to 6 her time. And she'll tell me hey, I got a thing at this time, or she'll put it on her calendar, and we're always good. And there's other times she'll text me after 5 if it's email me after 5 if it's we're wrapping something up. It's 5 after 5, 10 after 5. I'll send her emails or text message at 5:30, and I'll put in there do not respond today. She knows. I'll go home. So on Monday when we wrap this, I'll stay here for the next hour or so and bang out some emails. We're both on the same page. I know tomorrow morning she'll pound them out, and we've never that was established very day one.
Yep.
Hey, she's these are the hours I work for you, and that's it. I'm like, all right, bet. And it's all about transparency. That's it. The challenge I've had with other companies, when I sub out our marketing company or whatever, our current marketing company is good, but I had another marketing company that's I would send them emails or call them or text them. I wouldn't hear from them for 2-3 days. They're I was doing other client work. And it's well, if I'm not a priority, I'm not a priority. Or at the very least be hey, I've slotted 4 hours of my time on Thursday to handle your account. Cool. Then we're good. Same with Emmy. She is blocked off every day from 8 to 9 on her calendar. It just says unavailable because her commitment is available 8 hours a day. And that's not part of our window together. And so I don't mess with that time. And when she has external meetings, there's plenty of times I'll call her, be I shouldn't pick up, and they'll look at my calendar oh shit, she's in an external meeting. I need to check that before I ring her or I shoot her a text.
Yeah.
So that's it. Again, the bad what's that?
That's good communication. That's actually one of our pillars that we teach is over communication to our teammates. Like,
oh yeah,
let a client know you have kiddo pickup, drop off at school this time to this time. Just give a heads
Well,
up.
and you know where that comes from. You know where I believe that comes from? Directly from the military. I know this may sound crazy, but I tell people when I'm going to the restroom, hey, I'll be right back. I'm going to the restroom.
Yep.
It's so ingrained into my head. I want people to know exactly where I'm at, what I'm doing, so that in case they need me, they know. And sometimes it's too much information, but other times it's like, hey, over communicate. That way there's never a gap.
Exactly.
There's never an I don't know or
ambiguity serves no one. No, it is. Let's figure this out and transparency. So no, the best the best pitch I can give for Squared Away is the fact that I pay for 40 hours a month and I feel like I have a full-time assistant always available. Like that feeling, like you said earlier, Michelle, it's people won't remember you or the name of your company. They'll remember, or they won't remember what you said necessarily. They'll remember, the way that they felt when they interacted with you. And with me, I feel like I can call on me anytime of the day, and I know I'm going to get the answer I need. That not always the answer I want, right? To your point earlier, like it's the answer I need, and I pay her to, in some ways, babysit me so that I reach my goals and my potential. Because I'm very clear about my goals and my potential. My discipline and execution need massaging from time to time.
Yeah.
And most visionaries are going to be that way. Like discipline is not why we're entrepreneurs. Like we wanted to be disciplined, we go get a fucking job, which sounds terrible, by the way. Right? Mm-hmm. We got into this whole thing. We got into this whole thing to not have responsibilities.
Or to be in control of our own environments and career paths. So absolutely.
All right. Well, with respect to everybody's time, let's we're actually going to end on time here today, close to it at least. Let's go around the room, starting with you, Casey. Top takeaway from today.
Don't be afraid to delegate, and you don't always have to hire a full-time person to delegate. Your time is valuable, and so is your location, and you can't be everywhere at once, just like you can't do everything. So don't be afraid to reach out. And I know Annie doesn't like the word try, but try something new. Talk to Michelle, say, hey, look, let's see how this goes, because I don't know what I'm doing and I'm kind of nervous. And she'll get those answers. I mean, that's how I look at it. Right now I am in the middle of actually looking for an assistant. I personally will need an in-person assistant, but I'm getting to the point where at this point, I'll take anything. I'm in desperate need of that role.
Well, come see us, Casey.
Top takeaway from today, Michelle.
Partnering with your assistant is the most important aspect of your client-assistant relationship. Making sure that your goals are completely aligned with each other's. That way, you both can be as proactive as possible.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I like that. It definitely goes with the adage. This is the time I think about this often with business. A lot of times, business owners get into business and then they stop investing. They stop taking chances.
Exactly.
Get out there and take the chance. You know what you're great at. You know what your pain points are. Take this opportunity to step up your game so you can double down on what you're great at and eliminate, delegate, or automate what you're not great at that still needs to get done in the business. Be willing to continue to invest, because as soon as you stop investing, you are putting a false ceiling above your head, preventing you from scaling up to get to the next level. And what you said, Michelle, was dead on. You cannot multiply you. You can't say yes to everything and expect to do everything successfully. So now is the time to continue to reinvest so that you can go out. If I think of $600, like what do I need to do to make an additional clear another $600? Right? If you're running a junk removal company entry level, you're probably bare minimum 50% net profit. What do you need to do to go get $1,200 more revenue to take off 20 hours, 30 hours of bullshit? Because a 15-hour assistant can get rid of 30 hours of your bullshit that you're either avoiding doing or doing poorly, because that's all they do. And I'll let you know a little secret. They love doing it. They like the tedious, mind-numbing, detail-oriented, not exciting computer shit. Like that's what they do.
Valid. Very valid.
Right? Like they love that shit. And that's why we need to partner together. All right. This has been another exciting episode of the Trash Talk Business Podcast. We do thank our guest, Michelle. As always, Casey Bubba Lawrence. I'm Andy Weins from the great state of Wisconsin. We will see you next week.
Thanks for listening. Tap subscribe or follow to get the latest episode. And if you enjoyed this episode, be sure to leave us a review and tell a friend to listen. To learn more